Israeli opposition leaders have less than 2 hours, 90 minutes, you can see, from now to form a new government to unseat Benjamin Netanyahu, the country's longest-serving prime minister. Yair Lapid, who's the centrist, and Naftali Bennett, the right-wing leader, are trying to reach a power-sharing agreement. It involves at least 8 parties, and the shared goal is essentially to end Netanyahu's 12-year rule. Yohanan Plesner is a former member of the Knesset, now president of the Israel Democracy Institution. He joins me from Atlanta. Can they? Will they do it? They've got 90 minutes left.
Well, Richard, thanks for having me. You're speaking to me in a very a significant moment in Israeli politics and public life. Yeah, 90 minutes are left before Mr. Lapid has to return the mandate back to the president if he's not able to form a government, and they're still negotiating the final details of the agreement. Perhaps you can jump in and help them finalize the agreement, but it seems that they will be able to do so. Most of the major issues have been agreed upon, and therefore, perhaps starting from just within an hour or so, Yair Lapid will announce to the president of the state of Israel that he was able to form a new government, and this will mark the supposed end of Netanyahu's long rule since 2009 in Israeli politics, and perhaps more significantly, the end of a 2.5-year period of political paralysis and political stalemate.
Oh, hang on a second. Hang on. It may end paralysis from the previous elections, 4 elections, but this coalition is a coalition of the unwilling and the disparate and the disagreeable, in the sense that they've got such a spectrum of views, from Bennett on the right to Lapid in the middle to the Arab Israeli on the left. They'll never be able to agree on anything.
Richard, you're absolutely right. The fact that it's a very heterogeneous government is both its biggest advantage and biggest drawback or risk factor. On the one hand, it's an advantage because it will force them to seek the common denominator, to achieve broad understandings in order to continue to rule and remain in power, and therefore it will help lower the levels of rhetoric, lower the level of the discourse. Israeli politics has been exceedingly divisive over the past 2.5 years, and the Israeli people are looking for more normal type of politics, and this government can possibly, if it will succeed, provide that.
Right.
On the other hand, they will probably not focus on controversial issues, but mainly on repairing the internal discourse and repairing the economy.
But if they don't,
and just getting the government back to function.
Right, but if they don't deal with some of the issues, settlements, right of return, Jerusalem. Look, I know that there's no answers to these things at the moment. I'm aware of that. However, those are the issues that are on the table that need to be looked at. And this coalition, if it comes to fruition, will have no hope in hell of dealing with those issues.
Well, Richard, genuinely, there's no real prospect of moving forward on the Palestinian front. This government will not promote any kind of annexation or expansion of settlements, and they will also not probably lead to a breakthrough in the peace process. But there's no real prospect for a breakthrough right now. As you're probably aware, Palestinian politics is in a complete standstill. Abu Mazen, the head of the Palestinian Authority, is in his mid-80s. He's not in any kind of position to make any kind of serious compromises. So the collaboration and security cooperation with the Palestinian Authority will continue. Economic cooperation will continue. And with respect to Gaza, anyway, there's no real dispute within Israel. Gaza is controlled by Hamas, that has a declared goal of annihilating the state of Israel. So it doesn't really matter who's in power. We will have to somehow deal with this threat. So there isn't much to sort of move forward on, and therefore we're not really paying a price. And the post-COVID economy needs to be reignited. And in this respect, we do need a functioning government.
And you'll find out within an hour and 25 minutes if you'll get one. And you and I will talk tomorrow, hopefully, on whether or not it happens. Thank you, sir.
One qualification, Richard, even if they declare that they succeeded, they still need to swear in the government within a week or so, and anything can happen in this period of time.
Oh, please, let's just get through the next 24 hours first. We'll worry about that after. Good to talk to you, sir.